Hello everyone, what's up? Welcome to the GMB channel. Hope you will enjoy our video. Before we begin, hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Here is the news title. Rachel Reeves humiliated as living standards plunge under. Labor after budget catastrophe. Labor's mishandling of the economy and sky-high immigration has shrunk living standards. According to new data, millions of hard-pressed Britons are suffering a personal recession because of Labor's mishandling of the economy and sky-high immigration, experts have warned. Living standards have plunged since the general election, with new figures showing that economic growth per person has shrunk in the past 6 months. It delivers another humiliating blow to Sir Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, who have insisted the government should be judged on raising living standards. Official data show that GDP per capita fell by 0.3% between July and September, and then by a further 0.1% in October to December. In the same period, the economy has flatlined while net migration levels continued to surge. Critics also pointed to the Chancellor's Halloween budget for crushing individuals' personal wealth. The gloomy assessment came as official data showed the economy unexpectedly grew in the final quarter of last year. GDP rose by 0.1% between October and December. Barely detectable, but significantly better than the 0.1% contraction analysts had penciled in. The increase was fueled by a 0.4% expansion in December, despite predictions of a dire pre-Christmas performance. Across last year as a whole, growth was 0.9%, almost all in the first half. The figures emerged amid mounting fears. Ms. Reeves, who turned 46 on Thursday, could be forced to hike taxes again amid stalling growth, spiking debt interest costs, and global trade tensions. The OBR watchdog is believed to have completely wiped out the $10 billion headroom the Chancellor built into her sums in October. Responding to the numbers, Ms. Reeves said they were higher than many expected, but admitted she was not satisfied. But John O'Connell, chief executive of the Taxpayers Alliance, said, "The brutal reality for British taxpayers is that despite headline figures showing marginal overall growth, they are experiencing their own personal recession." 2 consecutive quarters of falling GDP per capita means a sustained and damaging decline in living standards for the average household, with potentially worse to come, given much of Rachel Reeves's catastrophic budget is yet to come into effect. During periods of personal recession, there should be a significant policy response, including freezes on public sector pay, limits on benefit increases, and spending reviews for government departments. Ms. Reeves sought to blame previous Tory governments for damaging the economy. "After 14 years of flatlining living standards, we are going further and faster through our plan for change to put more money in people's pockets," she said. But Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride said Ms. Reeves's October budget was killing growth, and working people and businesses are already paying for her choices. He said, "The Chancellor promised the fastest-growing economy in the G7, but her budget is killing growth. Working people and businesses are already paying for her choices with ever-rocketing taxes, hundreds of thousands of job cuts and business confidence plummeting." Julian Jessup, economics fellow at the Institute of Economic Affairs, said, "The first official figures for the UK economy in the final quarter of last year may not have been quite as bad as expected, but it says a lot. That growth of just 0.1% can be trumpeted as good news." The detail is also worrying. Output per head fell again for the second successive quarter, meaning that headline growth is still flattered by the increase in the population. He warned the UK has just about skirted outright recession, and that fears over jobs are starting to weigh on consumer spending. Growth may recover a little over the course of 2025, as more of the boost from higher public spending kicks in. But the economy may be flirting with recession all year, and the private sector is already in one. Ms. Reeves has vowed to spur on economic growth and make it the government's top priority, recently paving the way for a 3rd runway at London's Heathrow Airport as part of this ambition. However, Britain's independent forecaster, the Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, is expected to reveal downgrades to growth forecasts in the spring statement on March 26th. It has reportedly warned the Chancellor this will wipe out her $10 billion headroom, spare money against its spending plans. This will put Ms. Reeves under pressure to cut spending or even resort to potential tax rises to keep her on track with fiscal rules, according to Humiliated, as living standards plunge under labor. After budget catastrophe. The Labour government, under the leadership of Sir Keir Starmer and Chancellor Rachel Reeves, is facing increasing scrutiny as new economic data reveals a significant decline in living standards. The combination of economic mismanagement, high inflation, and soaring immigration levels has left millions of Britons grappling with what experts describe as a personal recession. Labour's economic mismanagement and plummeting living standards since Watts. The Labour Party took power in the last general election. The UK economy has been struggling, with GDP per capita experiencing consecutive declines. According to official data, GDP per capita fell by 0.3% between July and September, followed by another decline of 0.1% between October and December. While overall GDP showed a marginal increase of 0.1% in the last quarter, this was largely fueled by a modest December expansion of 0.4%. However, this growth has been described as barely detectable, and analysts warn that these figures mask deeper structural issues plaguing the economy. Despite promises from Labour to improve living standards, economic stagnation has instead become the norm. The sharp drop in GDP per capita signals that while the economy may technically be growing, individuals are becoming poorer in real terms. The economic squeeze is further exacerbated by rising inflation, high tax burdens, and the negative effects of unchecked immigration. The impact of the budget. Catastrophe Labour's first budget under Rachel Reeves was initially billed as a turning point for Britain's economic future. However, it has instead led to widespread criticism and fears of further economic contraction. Critics argue that Reeves's tax and spend policies, coupled with excessive borrowing and lack of pro-growth initiatives, have only deepened the economic crisis. The Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, has reportedly warned that the $10 billion headroom that Reeves had built into her fiscal plans in October has now been wiped out. This leaves the Chancellor with limited room for maneuver in future economic planning. The prospect of additional tax hikes looms large as Labour struggles to balance the books while dealing with mounting national debt and sluggish economic growth. Personal recession for millions. John O'Connell, chief executive of the Taxpayers Alliance, delivered a scathing assessment of the current economic climate. He pointed out that despite the headline figures showing minimal overall growth, ordinary Britons are experiencing their own personal economic downturn. The decline in GDP per capita reflects a sustained fall in living standards, meaning households have less disposable income and face increasing financial strain. During periods of personal recession, there should be a significant policy response, including freezes on public sector pay, limits on benefit increases, and spending reviews for government departments, O'Connell argued. Instead, Labour appears to be doubling down on the same policies that have contributed to economic stagnation. Labour's immigration policy worsening. The crisis, another major factor behind the decline in living standards, is Labour's failure to control immigration. With net migration continuing to surge, the UK's population is growing faster than the economy can support. Julian Jessup, an economics fellow at the Institute of Economic Affairs, noted that headline growth is still flattered by the increase in population. While Reeves and Starmer claim that immigration is necessary to fill labour shortages, many experts argue that an uncontrolled influx of migrants is placing excessive pressure on public services, housing, and wages. The combination of rising costs and wage stagnation means that many working-class Britons are finding it increasingly difficult to make ends meet. The Shadow Chancellor's response and mounting criticism. In response to the latest economic data, Rachel Reeves acknowledged that growth was higher than many expected, but admitted she was not satisfied. However, rather than taking responsibility, she blamed previous Conservative governments for the nation's economic woes. After 14 years of flatlining living standards, We are going further and faster through our plan for change to put more money in people's pockets, she claimed. Shadow Chancellor Melstride, however, was quick to push back, arguing that Reeves's economic policies are killing growth. He highlighted the impact of Labor's tax increases, which he said were making it harder for businesses to expand and invest. Working people and businesses are already paying for her choices with ever-rocketing taxes, hundreds of thousands of job cuts, and business confidence plummeting. Stride economic outlook for 2025. Looking ahead, analysts predict a difficult year for the UK economy. While there may be a slight recovery in growth due to increased public spending, concerns remain over the sustainability of Labor's economic strategy. The OBR is expected to downgrade growth forecasts in its upcoming spring statement, putting further pressure on Reeves to either cut spending or increase taxes. Julian Jessup warned that the UK has narrowly avoided an outright recession but is still in economic peril. The economy may be flirting with recession all year, and the private sector is already in one, he cautioned. With business investment dwindling and consumer spending under pressure, Labor's economic policies are facing increasing scrutiny from all sides. Conclusion. A government in crisis as living standards continue to decline. Rachel Reeves and Sir Keir Starmer face a growing crisis of confidence in their ability to manage the UK economy. The promise of prosperity under Labour has not materialised, and instead, Britons are enduring falling incomes, rising costs, and economic uncertainty. The budget, which was supposed to set the UK on a path to recovery, has instead been widely regarded as a failure. With the OBR warning of deteriorating public finances and growth stagnating, Labour's economic credibility is in tatters. Unless immediate action is taken to reverse course, the downward trajectory of living standards under Labour's watch is set to continue, leaving millions of Britons worse off than before.